You're tuning in to Creepy Time, where we bring you chilling creepy stories and eerie urban legends every day at 6 p.m. To support Creepy Time, please don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave your thoughts in the comments so we can discuss the story together. Now, let's dive into today's tale, the Soviet Sleepless experiment. Snow falls in thick, muffling curtains across the endless pine forest outside Amnozva. But beneath centuries of frozen earth lies something even more chilling, a secret Soviet facility carved into the permafrost, where no sign, no entrance, gives any clue to what's buried beneath. Only a narrow tunnel from an abandoned wooden cabin leads down into the ice-cold silence. Inside, fluorescent lights hum above a higher-ceilinged passage where Dr. X1, a gaunt man in his 50s with icy blue eyes, white lab coat flawless, holds a brown dossier stamped "Top Secret." He steps forward, feeling the low buzz of hidden wires and unseen cameras. Behind him follows Y-127, a stern-grade female bio-expert in army green, her posture rigid, her focus sharper than the bite of Siberian wind. "We begin at 600 hours tomorrow," she says without warmth. "Everything ready?" X1 nods. Compound 17 has been fully sterilized, equipment safety confirmed. Deeper below, Z-94 thin, nervous, adjusting compound valves explains. The gas concentration is calibrated to suppress sleep without fatal sedation. It's experimental. His voice trembles. One miscalculation, and these men could slip from vigilance into coma or worse. Behind a one-way glass, W213 rubs his thick mustache, eyes fixed on cameras and hidden mics. Every breath, every twitch, 24/7. "I'll do the night shift." They enter a stark white chamber. 5 metal cot beds, a small sink, a wooden table, a toilet. Open air feels miles away. The dossier describes the missionet's Project Number 0, an attempt to force humans to stay awake for 30 days straight using Compound 17. The prize? A soldier who doesn't sleep is unstoppable in a weakness. No enemy's midnight ambush could take them by surprise. But history shows how fragile human mind and body become when sleep is stripped away. In 1894, Russian scientist Maria Manasena studied puppies forced to stay awake. 6 days in, their brains deteriorated. They died faster than puppies starved of food, proof that sleep, even more than sustenance, is essential for life. In 1963, Randy Gardner, a healthy 17-year, stayed awake for 11 days, 264 hours. He experienced mood swings, memory lapses, paranoia, even hallucinations, yet recovered after sleep. His records led researchers to conclude sleep deprivation is hazardous, even at shorter durations than this Soviet experiment. What makes Project Zero distinct is its scale: 30 days of forced wakefulness under constant chemical influence, with political prisoners promised freedom as bait. 5 men patriots, novices. Farmers invite dreams of liberation, not nightmares. As they are led in, shackled and silent, their eyes belie steeliness and perhaps terror. Liu Minhai, tall and stoic, looks straight ahead. Tranquil Bao grips his cot but doesn't flinch. Nguyen Van Quang glances around, wary. Wang Duke Than pulls from his scholarly background, clutching a tattered notebook. Pham Xuan Lok, youngest, shakes with quiet determination. They enter. The door clangs shut. Gas begins to hiss. The world outside is a white void, but inside, the experiment begins. We often revere technology's potential to push boundaries, to conquer human limits. But this experiment fuses scientific curiosity with ideological ambition. The Soviet state didn't just want more alert soldiers. They wanted to prove that human endurance could be chemically controlled. This isn't just cold science, it's political theater. In modern times, military still study sleep deprivation ranger school and US. Military tests have shown performance collapses after 48-72 hours of wakefulness. But those studies operate with ethics, oversight, recovery. This facility represents the opposite: secrecy, coercion, no escape. Within the first hours, something shifts. Compound 17 scent is almost sweet, deceptively calm. At first, each man feels energized. Heartbeats quicken, speech flows smoother, laughter echoes softly. It seems like breakthrough, not breakdown. The lab team exchanges glances of excitement behind the glass. Is this the beginning of a new epoch? But soon, the edges fray. By nightfall, Leah Minihai's voice cracks. He grips the cot frame, murmuring about light behind the walls. It's not sleep talking, it's something deeper, unstable. Minutes later, Bao's hand trembles as he reaches for his shirt. Their bodies fight gravity, their minds spin outward, searching for anchor. Deprivation's wrecking ball is both known and underestimated. Consider the tragic case of a 1,965 military study in which soldiers, sleep-deprived for 72 hours, began to hallucinate pests crawling across their skin. One soldier, desperate and disoriented, attacked his own reflection. By the end, commanders halted the trial. The psychological fallout was too extreme. Even a fraction of the 30-day plan is lethal. See Effects of Sleep Deprivation on Military Performance. 1971. Back in the chamber, W-213's voice over the walkie is low but insistent. Oxygen levels steady, vitals stable, but vocal modulation increasing. His mustache twitches with tension. He thumbs a tape recorder, but words don't match the sight before him. 5 men, once resolute, now wobbling between vigilance and anguish. Meanwhile, Z94 records, compound 17 levels, recalibrating valves. He's anxious for adjustment risks, dwellings beyond tolerance, or a fatal collapse. He thinks of his infant daughter. He wonders with guilt if science has any morality left. By day 3, fatigue deepens. No Van Kwang paces, his eyes red-rimmed and wild. He stares at the white walls as if they harbor voices. Thon, the scholar, recites poetry aloud to himselfless insanity woven into lines, yet his voice cracks and rebounds like a breaking dam. Bao, always analytical, tries to log every thought in his head, but the film in his memory keeps rewinding, splitting, fracturing. Then comes the shift of relationships. Leaders emerge. Leah naturally organizes mental games who sees more, and Bao calculates risk. Than quotes verses to calm emotions. Locke meditates, trying to hold together the fractal of his mind. It's a curious thing. Isolation fractures, but shared suffering can lead to unity. They form a fragile bond, 5 men against the void. Even under chemical duress, the human instinct for community persists. Cut to W-213's reflection. Through the one-way glass, he sees communal gestures, thumb squeezes, shared water sips. The scientific team expected breakdowns of personality, not glimpses of solidarity. Now their data is skewed by human resilience. Hear my perspective. Experiments aren't sterile tests. They're sociological dramas. They reveal not just physiological breakdown, but human narratives. Sleep deprivation studies throughout history, like the notorious 1959 Stanford Naval Research Lab trial, show that togetherness may be the only defense against collapsing into madness. These men, though prisoners, are also participants in a communal psychology experiment their captors never accounted for. Real-life example. During the 2012 Olympics, athletes reported hallucinations after sleep debt before competition's strange morphing shapes in the stands, whispered encouragement from empty seats. No gas, no confinement, Yet the brain's response to stress pushes boundaries even in everyday people, and these were elite, supported individuals. Now imagine men trapped in cells, chemically stripped of rest, political stakes looming over every breath. Let's dig deeper. Compound 17 isn't just any stimulant. Based on declassified Cold War pharmacology leaks, it's a synthetic analog of modafinil mixed with unknown neural agonists. The dosage is high enough to suppress REM and deep sleep phases, but maybe too aggressive for long-term brain chemistry stability. The Soviet Union studied dopamine pathways, circadian rhythms they pushed towards sentry soldiers capable of days-long vigilance. But they never crossed 30 days. Why? Ethics? Fear? Lack of results? We don't know. Why 127's internal comment caught on Microville's layers. We are playing with consciousness itself. She doesn't stop the experiment. Why? Commitment to scientific prestige, political pressure, fear of reprisal? In this regime, failure is not an option. That unspoken truth leaks through the lab walls. Research becomes ritual. Let me share a story. In the 70s, U.S. Air Force researchers tested pilots' cognitive limits after 48 hours of wakefulness. One pilot, after dialing in instrumentation, reported a presence in his peripheral vision, a silhouette just beyond reach. When asked, he said it spoke quietly but with urgency. He refused to re-enter the chamber. That's guiding parallel. Hallucination becomes internal warning bell. It's not just fatigue, it's the mind trying to self-preserve. In Omnozva, our 5 men begin whispering to unseen listeners, and their skin records phantom sensations. It's not just experiment failure, it's survival instinct. By day 5, something cracks. Leah sits cross-legged, eyes unblinking. While the gas valves hum, his focus sharpens not on words, but on silence. Silence becomes a physical thing. The scar tissue of his mind. Bao studies Leah. He's not asleep. Is he different? Don coughs, clutching his chest. I dreamt of wings. I dreamt of books speaking. Locke closes his hands over his ears. They won't stop. Kung trembles at the smell of stress in the air. Through the panel, W213 notes, the first organic sign of bonding turning parasitic. They're syncing breathing, pacing, gesturing identically. It's no longer 5 individuals sits a hive. Cut perspective to X1's notes. Shared rhythm, emergent behavior. He's excited, a breakthrough, but is it data or disaster? Here's my insight. Humans crave patterns. When stripped of all stimulation light, time, sound, the brain fabricates them. Your brain prefers deafening solar storms than acid silence. And shared deprivation intensifies projection. Scientifically, fascinating, ethically horrifying. This part of the narrative is where horror crosses into philosophy. What happens when consciousness becomes collective? When sleep erodes individual boundaries? When silence is no longer absence, but invasive presence? As day 7 dawns, the 5 men shuffle through the chamber like haunted statues. Their gait is ritualistic, their eyes unseeing or seeing too much. Leah Menahai stands near the wall, tracing invisible patterns. From across the glass, W213 whispers into his microphone. Their quiet almost synchronize, heart rates, respiration, eerie harmony. He swallows back a tremor. This is no data, it's a signal. Inside, Bao's analytical mind unravels. We exist, he murmurs, not because we are reminded, but because nobody reminds us to stop existing. His voice is hollow. Ache drips between each word. He's begun journaling again, but sentences loop endlessly, like a tape on repeat. Thon lounges with closed eyes. He tells himself the lines of poetry he memorized. Khayyam, Pushkin, but he misquotes them words, warping into incantations. He's trying to anchor himself, but the anchor has sunk into unknowable depths. Locke crouches near the floor, hands pressed to cold concrete. He says nothing, but his lips move in conversation with the silence. Kung paces, sweat beading under the gas. He snatches at the air like he can swallow breath itself, and maybe he can in this void. Late that afternoon, 5 men, 5 different breakdowns. Leah approaches the glass, voice reverent. "They're calling me now. You know them?" His finger trembles against the wall. Bao collapses, breath rasping, scribbles numbers on the wall, 0 o'clock, 0 o'clock, then laughs, dry and sudden. Fawn starts humming in Tungsno tune. No lyrics, just sacred noise. Locke whispers to his own reflection, "Show me." Kung shrieks without words and claws his shins. On the other side, Y-127 breaks protocol. She steps forward. "Stop the gas," she orders. W-213 and Z-94 freeze. Milliseconds tick. Compound 17 valves hiss continues. "Send code 2 scrubbers and increase code 2, she commands sharply. "Bring them out." They act hesitant, mechanical. Inside the chamber, Leah gasps. He shakes in grief, terror, communion. He staggers to his knees. Bang! The glass door finally swings open. They are removed. Immediately, sensors spike. Code 2 rises, O2 falls. W-213 scrambles. "Ambulance!" he shouts, voice cracking. Each man is laid on a gurney, wheezing. Leah is muttering, "They are with me. Don't leave me." Bao is silent eyes vacant, refusing to meet gaze. Stan is weeping, saying, the words, over and over. Locke is unresponsive. An EKG shows near, flatline. Kung is screaming in multiple voices, some not his own. Their minds snapped or fractured, but only shattered part of them. We saved them physically but killed something deeper. Sleep was the limit. We wiped it out and it took us down with it. I think of references like the CIA's MK Ultra interrogation tactics, no sleep, no light, relentless confusion. Several subjects broke in days. One operative reported conversations with harvest voices, a collective hallucination formed from fear. Researchers halted coordination, fearing widespread dissociation. Mood, cognition, identity broken. Another case, 1940s Japanese unit, 731, 4 subjects into sleeplessness to simulate battlefield conditions under gas attacks. Survivors described collective nightmarish visions of tunnels, unending corridors, and watchers behind glass. Their minds adapted not together, but into the same shape of brokenness. These parallels show a tragic truth. Once you crack the threshold of sleep, you hit the architecture of consciousness, and sometimes its occupants aren't alone. At this midpoint, I want to pause and reflect. What just happened was inevitable. Compound 17 wasn't the tool, it was the tipping straw. Stimulation versus deprivation, the wrong phrase swallowed the wrong context. These prisoners weren't just awake, they were ghosting between states. Between hallucination and group rumination. Between self and hive. The scientists cheered the shared heartbeat, the synchronization. To them, this was victory, a new human interface. But I fear they lost the difference. Biology thrives on rhythm and rest. Disruption carries a toll. Faith in pattern is fine, but not when pattern collapses identity. Ethically, this experiment is a case study in hubris. Political prisoners traded freedom for illusion. A state commanded voices from silence and expected soldiers, not broken shards. The chamber lies empty. 5 beds abandoned. 5 stories forever altered. The machinery hums in sterile silence. Outside, the prisoners are in debrief rooms, faces gaunt. W-213 paces, eyes haunted. We may have lost them, he mutters. Y127 enters, carrying Bao's journal, his handwriting, spiraling like a fractal. She pauses at the cover, the collective. Opening the pages, her voice trembling, Y127 reads aloud. Today I felt them, not inside me, beside me. A presence hovering at the threshold of thought. We shared it, they whispered. We are here, we wait. Underground, scientists listen. The words hang in the lab like acid. X1 speaks softly. What if it's real? Not hallucination, but shared consciousness. W213 replies, voice raw. If they tapped into something deeper, we've trespassed laws we didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, Leah Minahai lies in a medical bed. His lips move in prayer. He murmurs of runic symbols etched in darkness. He speaks of tunnels beneath the forest, of voices sealed in ice calling for liberation. For a moment, Y127's professional mask falters. Compassion flickers behind her eyes. Could Leah have perceived something external? Or was it echo chamber hallucination amplified by the group? Neuroimaging begins. Electroencephalograms show erratic spikes during Leah's chant. Bao's scans reveal synchronized wave patterns when he recites journal entries. Than, Locke, Kungal show overlapping neurological activations, suggesting thinking alike outside mere coincidence. Scientist commentary is clinical. Delta and theta merging indicates trance-like state. Temporal lobe coactivity linked with mystical experiences. But then the scans reveal anomalies. Leah's brain becomes hyper-connected during hallucinations regions that should be independent now fire in unison. Doctors confirm his brain architecture has rewired neuroplasticity at an extreme outlier. Here's my angle. We often view consciousness as a private stage where individual actors perform, yet history shows contamination dream, sharing, mass hysteria, collective trance. In 1956, researchers at the Parapsychology Foundation documented a phenomenon called Group ESP, where small isolated teams reported similar dream themes without communication. Isolated context, yes, but never under chemical pressure. Here, compound the 17th of May have amplified small signals thoughts, whispers coordinating them via environmental cues and deprivation pressure. The result, a pseudo-networked mind built by silence and chemistry. What does that mean? Reality isn't just perceived, it's collectively constructed. 5 men, no sleep, 1 compound, 1 company of voices. Late one night, Y127 wakes Leah with a recorder. He speaks slowly. We listen. They told us. The key is beneath the snow, in the pulse of a hidden heart. Her voice shakes. The key? A weapon? Data? Leah's eyes close, his whisper returns. Freedom, but not for soldiers. For those who forgot to listen. He drifts off. She plays it back for the team. X1 leans forward. Could this be coordinated code? A genuine insight? W213's answer. Or deeper psychosis. I can't tell any longer. In that moment, 2 choices emerge. Seal the information, report success, compound extends alertness for X days home in glory. Expose identical breach, unknown consequences, field investigation, global backlash. Y127 advocates for truth. Bao's final scribbles found in the journal read, not soldier, not patient, bridge. Bridge to what? W213's tears hint he knows. Let me pull in another case for context. In the 1980s, Soviet parapsychology units experimented with sensory deprivation tanks under LSD analogs. Subjects reported shared visions of hidden temples and voices calling names. The experiment was shut down in 1987 after documentation of mental disorders and group psychosis. No chemicals, no tanks, just humans and suggestion. It confirmed a terrifying idea. Once group consciousness surfaces, it resists control. That seems to echo here. The difference is the belief this time isn't mystical, it's strategic or ideological. If Leah and Bao experienced real shared perception, Soviet doctrine just shifted from power over bodies to power over minds. This isn't mere soldier endurance. It's experiment-tracked spiritual invasion. But if it's organic psychosis, it's still damning. Holding 5 men awake for 30 days in an act of violence so extreme, it created something alien and permanent. Bao's journal the raw echoes of his mind slips into Allied intelligence hands, a pilot operation by a defecting analyst in the KGB's info division. Suddenly, what was underground becomes a diplomatic flashpoint. Western agencies buzz with whispers. Soviet Consciousness Project, a Cold War escalation of unseen frontiers. In Amnozva's bunker, Y-127 first discovers the breach. Stored on a letter-bombed SD card marked Urgent Security, she recognizes the scrawled lines. Her face drains of color. A single thought echoes, "It's out." X-1 confronts her in the lab corridor. X-1 stern, "Explain." Y-127 softly, "They know." X-1, "They don't understand the data." Y-127, "They will, and they'll act." News outlets on the western side pick up fragment terms like shared hallucinations, collective trance, brain network experiments. Some dismiss it as propaganda. Other scientific media see it as breakthrough territory. Pentagon analysts debate, a weapon that influences minds remotely? Information warfare begins. Rumors spread, ties to psychic warfare, telepathy testing, brainwashing on steroids. Back in the lab, morale fractures. W-213 and Z-94 argue. W-213, "We didn't sign up for this. Freedom fighters, not guinea pigs." Z-94, voice trembling, "It's bigger than us, bigger than Amnozva." Y-127, "Not bigger than mankind. We have to be honest." X-1's calm facade cracks at midnight. He mutters into the recorder, "If they weaponize this, if Leah's verses are studied for code, we're in a new war." The team splits into two factions. Faction A, X-1, Z-94, W-213. "We can salvage the science, publish data, frame it as pharmacology, shift narrative." Faction B, Y-127, increasingly Bao's ghost. "This is mind, altering, not just stimulant. Entire paradigm shift needs transparency, oversight." They hold a late-night vote. The power stutters at 2 a.m., flickering fluorescent lights making the bunker feel like a failing heart. The vote ends deadlocked. Silence. None are fully prepared to become whistleblowers, nor willing to continue knowing the global fallout. Y-127 reads Bao's hidden final entry, recorded hours before hallucinations overtook him. "If they see into us, they listen to more than words. They listen to our souls. But what if we listen back? What if we heard something we were never supposed to hear?" Those lines haunt her. That question, what did they hear? While they deliberated, Moscow sends orders. Cease public interpretation. Contain it. KGB transports descend underground, threatening disbanding of the team. Y-127 meets with a colonel in a gray coat there. Exchange echoes corridors of fear and utopia. He warns, "The general staff has interest. This is not for academic journals. It will become classified weapon undeclared." Y-127's reply, "We destroyed mines. Do you plan to destroy more?" He remains silent. This is where morality infects the sterile lab walls. Science cannot be separated from ideology when political influence pulls the strings. Y127's stance is clear: healing requires conscience. X1's behind-the-glass brilliance is dangerous when detached from ethics. W213 and Z94 see themselves as technicians, not judges, but they are becoming pawns. Here's my take. The greatest danger of experimentation isn't the unknown, it's the allure of power it bestows. The moment you discover something potentially weaponizable, you're in the moral gray. The lab doesn't exercise morality, it entangles it. Late one evening, Leah Menahai relapses. His eyes open suddenly in the infirmary, clarity and fear flickering in each iris. Y127 rushes to him. "Leah, can you hear me?" she whispers. He grips her hand. "They're here again, louder. They demand the key." She steadies herself. "Which key?" He whispers, "Beneath the ice, the hush that binds dreams." Before she can ask more, Leah drifts back, breathing ragged. On the monitor, his brain patterns spike mirroring earlier shared rhythms with Bao and the others. The team gathers. Leah's awakening has tipped into something beyond hallucination pattern, as if Leah is a conduit for the group's collective trance. A hush falls. W213 turns from the monitors. "We can't contain him underground. If Leah speaks again, everything unravels." Y127 interrupts. "We need Leno silence him, but decode him. If we record his trance, maybe understand it." X1 nods slowly. "We sample his brain signals, link them to data from Bao's journal, bridge cognition to code." Yet Z94 hesitates. "We're tampering again. What's our goal? Soldier protocol or knowing consciousness?" Clocks tick. The chamber remains empty, suspended in white stillness, the artifact of conflict. The division has gravitated into stark contrast. Silence faction, X1, W213, Z94, continue analysis covertly, frame Leah's condition as neurological anomaly, maintain operational secrecy, perhaps weaponize the phenomenon's secret sleeping agents, remote coordination. Transparency faction, Y127, internal moral trace from Bao, advocate for controlled disclosure, publish findings ethically, ensure oversight, dismantle project, treat the subjects as patients. Tension peaks when Leah's voice echoes again on recording. The pulse beneath the frost rumbles. We are not alone. The room grows cold. X1 closes his eyes. Y127 wipes her tears. W213 weeps silently. Z94 steps back. This is consciousness, but whose? Let me interject. Modern BCI's brain computer interfaces record thought intent from neural activity. With EEG caps, researchers have decoded imagined handwriting in simple words. It's groundbreaking, yes but controlled, participant consented, and reversible. This is different. Leah is involuntary, wounded, sharing voices he can't dismiss. The distinction is not technology, it's humanity. They're crossing from decoding the brain to inhabiting it. Y127 and X1 record Leah using a neural scanner bank. W213 and Z94 monitor backup. Leah stares at the glass. He speaks slowly. "We heard the silence in the walls. We heard the earth's heartbeat. They told us, when stone holds breath, dreams appear." The words leave the room suspended. It implies an external phenomenon, forces beyond chemistry, maybe acoustic resonance, perhaps geophysical signals from the frozen depths. Is no longer psychic coruscates, Earth's echo, or so it seems. Heartbeat spikes. W213 nearly collapses. X1 records every node. Y127 watches Leah tremble and weeps. He's not hallucinating, he's translating. Now the choice is raw. Send Leah's transcript and EEG data to Moscow. They will classify it 1B and build super soldiers. Publish it, shock academia, invite global scrutiny, dismantle project, protect the subjects, destroy everything, save the men physically, but eliminate proof, bury the secret. As the group debates, KGB black-suited colonels march into the lab. The overhead speakers crackle. Colonel, voice loud. Secure all recordings. Prepare Leah for extraction. X1, begin infiltration protocol. Time freezes. Y127 locks eyes with W213. He nods. They know what must be done. A last gamble for truth or for secrecy. This is the pivot moment. Now we choose between pure science, state power, or human dignity. Experiments begin with curiosity, but the war draws energy and rewrites outcomes. The question is not, can we do this, but should we? If we silence Leah, what have we silenced about human vulnerability? If we publish Can, we bear the fallout. If we destroy evidence, do we protect the world or condemn it to oblivion? We're past flavor of horror. This is philosophical tension. What does humanity owe humanity? The KGB colonels entered like a winter storm silent, imperious, and the lab froze beneath their shadow. Leah lay still, unconscious, flanked by electrodes and gasping monitors. Suit-clad officers eyed every cable. X1 and Z94 stepped aside. Y127 and W213 exchanged a glance that bore the weight of the world. Colonel Rostov, name etched with fear and formality, spoke first. Leah Mini-High's neurodata, his visions their state property. Prepare him for transcend phase. Complete all recordings. Transcendent ominous protocol designed to weaponize consciousness itself. Y127's breath caught. W213 swallowed hard. He moved toward the colonel. W213, voice shaking. Colonel, he is human. He needs care, rest. Rostov glared. Rostov, he will dream when he is commanded. Until then, he serves. With that, the colonel signaled 2 officers to carry Leah out. Y127 bolted forward, but Z94 blocked her gently. Z94. Y127. This is more than us. If you stop this, they'll kill him. She froze. W213 grabbed her arm. W213 quietly. We still have a window. X1 spun, voice urgent. X1, we can escape with Leah's recordings, broadcast them to Western media. We embed the journal, EEG for Leah, expose it. Y127 fought her rise. But evidence? Bao's journal, hidden beneath the EEG Consolian encrypted SD card. Z94 whispered, security blind spots during chamber checks. Leah's file and Bao's card we can upload. They gathered. While Colonel supervised Leah's extraction, Y127, W213, and Z94 navigate wires, extract data, and begin encryption. They are smugglers of consciousness. Leah sits blank-eyed in a sealed gurney cart. Electrodes hum, security cameras above. Rostov watches with thin satisfaction. Leah shifts his eyes open and he stares, as if scanning for friend or foe. He lingers, and Rostov stiffens. With trembling fingers, Y127 initiates the encrypted file transfer Bao's writings, Leah's EEG, group data all, to a secure drop zone flagged to Western Intel? A confirmation ping? They've done it. But max tension, an alarm shrieks. Unauthorized file transfer. Officers rush in. U127 freezes. Z94 fumbles for the keyboard. W213 steps in front of the screen, dragging a chair across hardware. A bullet cracks the wall behind them. Rostov storms in. Rostov cold. Traitors. Y127 locks eyes with him, holding out Bao's card. Y127. It's humanity or weapon. Decide now. Rostov regards her. Then, with contempt. Rostov. It's too late. Multiple things happen at once. Leah's Gurney Shuddersh's body lighting up on remote monitors. The transfer completes. Western analysts receive the files. W213 lunges to pull power. Monitors flicker bang. The lab goes dark. Silence. The lights flicker back. Colonel's gone. Leah is gone. His tracks wiped. W213 collapses with Y127. Z94 inspects the SD card. They missed the neurologic logs, but capture journal and EEG summary. It's incomplete, but it's enough. Some KGB mole tipped them. Leah's extraction went off-site. He's probably in Moscow. But files are live. Bao's journal has reached the West. EEG data is whispered in encrypted channels. They chose exposure over obedience. They chose ethics over silence. This moment captures a profound truth. Even in the deepest shadows of state power, conscience still lights the path. Fragile, terrifying, effective. But it's not a victory. Leah may be lost. The team risks persecution, yet the world will know. It's a gamble for truth, not perfect, not pure, but human. Across continents, Bao's journal and Leah's partial EEG data ripple through anxious networks. In Washington, D.C., a Pentagon neural analysis unit buzzes with talk of cognitive drones and shared mental conduits. In London, the Lancet commissions a special issue titled Consciousness and Control. In Moscow, silence. Media, blackout. But deep within the Kremlin, analysts pore over black market intercepts. No official narrative emerges, but scientists share whispers. A fellowship forms, the data is real, and the world watches. Y127, W213, and Z94 take refuge in a safe house beneath pine trees, no longer secrets, but fugitives in training coats. They move with care, files held in broken USBs, Bao's journal on old paper. Their bond, forged under extreme conditions, now feels sacred. Y127 picks up the last known photo of Leah talking in the chamber. Light on his face, like conviction and fear mixed. We risked him, she whispers, and yet we honored him. W213 places his hand on her shoulder. He's not just scientific data anymore, he's promise that we can choose conscience over command. Z94 sits in silence, eyes scanning Bao's final message. If we listen back, what we heard might change everything. They listen, but are they ready to speak? Let's pause. Project Zero looked like a quest for invincible soldiers' bodies, unbroken, minds unmapped. It became something else. A test of our capacities to resist coercion, admit fallibility, speak truth. Leah nearly vanished into himself, into conquest, into silence. The scientists nearly lost their souls, but they found them back in defiance. We've stripped sleep, but found solidarity. We wanted soldiers, but discovered messengers. We feared weapon found mirror. Night falls again on the Omnosva facility. The chamber is empty, surveillance dark, gas lines drained. A single notebook Bowsley's on the floor, the word bridge underlined. Pan across the tech, and words echo, what if we heard something we weren't supposed to hear? A whisper, perhaps the wind carries the stress of silence. The camera zooms out, raw earth, frozen forest, secrets buried in ice. This story holds a lesson far beyond creepypasta. Human limits exist for a reason. Sleep isn't weakness, it's survival. Pushing beyond it strains more than body sit bends minds, fractures souls. Science without conscience is catastrophic. Discovery divorced from ethics invites control and coercion. Silence is complicity, but voices, however cracked, wield power. Y127, W213, Z94 chose risk over cover-up, truth over obedience. Collective consciousness is powerful but uncharted territory. When minds merge, identity blurs. The unknown awaits both miracle and monster. Weapons of the future aren't drones or bombs, they're ideas and brains. Guard them as sacred soil. As we leave Omnosfa, the facility may be empty, but the questions linger. What did Leah and Bao hear beneath the ice? What pattern pulses beneath the white earth, waiting for ears to listen? We close not with answers but with a reminder. Sometimes the most dangerous experiments aren't the ones in labs, but the ones in our heads.